President Trump putting the brakes on a massive 50% tariff that was set to hit goods from the European Union next weekend. It threatened to dramatically escalate the trade battle between Trump and European countries. Trump now says that the new tariff will be delayed until July 9th. CNN's Kevin Liptak is covering the story from the White House, and our Claire Sebastian is in London. Kevin, to you first. The president said just a few days ago that he wasn't looking for a deal with Europe. What changed?
Yeah, and it seems to have been this conversation that the president held yesterday with the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. This was actually the first time that the two leaders had talked since President Trump took office, which is somewhat surprising given all of the trade tensions between the U.S. and the European Union. In this call, they were essentially able to discuss some of the differences between the two sides as these talks proceed. And there are some significant differences. From the European perspective, there is some confusion about what exactly Trump is looking for in order to lift some of these tariffs. U.S. officials have complained that the Europeans aren't bringing them serious enough offers as part of these trade talks. And in this call, Ursula von der Leyen essentially told the president that, yes, she was serious about reaching a trade deal, but that they would need more time, that they would need until July 9th, which is the date that President Trump agreed to. We should say that this is actually the original deadline that President Trump set in order to reach all of these trade deals. That is when that 90-day negotiation period with all of these countries will expire. So essentially the president here saying that he would revert to that original timeline in order to prevent these new tariffs from going into effect.
And Claire, to you, how is the European Union responding?
Well, I think they're treading very carefully, Alex. We see that in the conciliatory tone that came out of that call. Ursula von der Leyen describing it as a good call, saying Europe is ready to advance talks swiftly and decisively, and calling this the most consequential and close trade relationship. I think that's a bit of a shift from the rhetoric we saw from the EU trade chief on Friday, who said that deals should be made with respect and not threats. Because now, even though the timeline has been extended, they have 44 days to try and reach a deal with not a 20% reciprocal tariff, but a 50% reciprocal tariff hanging over them. And I think, as Kevin alluded to, they now have to figure out what exactly to offer the Trump administration to prevent further escalation, because some of the points on the table, these non-tariff barriers that the Trump administration takes issue with, things like value-added tax, digital services tax, those are decided at a national level and will be much harder to agree with member states. Plus, the negotiating problem that the US side has talked about, in the words of Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the fact that you have these 27 member states in the European Union represented from sort of centrally in Brussels has made negotiating more difficult. That also will not be resolved overnight. So perhaps something involving more investment in the US. President Trump hinted that if someone wanted to come forward and build a plant, they could look at a further delay, perhaps something to reduce that hated $236 billion trade deficit in goods. We don't know at this stage, but the timeline is tight. And while European markets have rebounded somewhat today, I don't think you could call this a full sigh of relief at this point, Alex.
And that is what so much of this is about, what the Trump administration feels like it's being offered in these negotiations. Claire Sebastian in London.
I'm not looking for a deal. I mean, we've set the deal. It's at 50%. Now, if somebody comes in and wants to build a plant here, I can talk to them about a little bit of a delay.
2 days later, a call from the EU Commission President apparently changed all that.
And she asked for an extension on the June 1st date. And she said she wants to get down to serious negotiation. July 9th would be the date. That was the date she requested. Could we move it from June 1st to July 9th? And I agreed to do that.
Joining me now in the group chat, Stephen Collinson, CNN politics senior reporter, Maria Cardona, CNN political commentator and Democratic strategist, and Lindsey Dratz, CEO of the Forward Party and a former campaign finance official for Mitt Romney's presidential campaign. Thank you guys all for being here today. Appreciate it. Okay, Stephen, so you've talked in the past about the tariffs in general. When you look at the state of play, are these reversals? Are these the art of the deal? Is the EU doing better than other countries? You know what I mean? It feels like there's some European leaders that have won his favor. What are you looking at now?
I think there's really total confusion.
My 10 questions didn't convey that?
Yeah, but,
obviously I have a firm
the
grasp.
argument that this is the art of the deal founders on the fact there hasn't really been any deals yet. There have been discussions about deals or commitments about deals or a commitment with China to talk about a deal. But I think there are increasing concerns about how real all of this is. Ultimately, I think what Trump would like is a tariff of 10%. I think that's what we've seen on most of the deals that have emerged. The problem is it's backwards and forwards, and I think the thing that a European leader probably would take away from the Chinese example, for example, is when the pain is about to kick in, the president steps back. And that seems to be what's happened here.
All right, I have to play a clip of tape from the president because so much of this conversation has been wrapped around the idea of bringing manufacturing back to the U.S. What would that look like? What would that mean? How long would it take? He was asked about it, and here's what he had to say.
We want to make military equipment. We want to make big things. We want to do the AI thing with the computers and the many elements. But the textile, you know, I'm not looking to make T-shirts, to be honest. I'm not looking to make socks. We can do that very well at other locations.
Okay, it's a tie for Lindsay and Maria on facial expressions while that was playing. Lindsay, let me start with you. That's ambitious, and I think that has always driven the U.S. protection of its manufacturing capabilities, military equipment, being competitive. What's going on with what he's saying?
Yeah, it is ambitious, and I think that the American people want to hear that the president is committed to bringing manufacturing jobs, because the American people equate that with middle income jobs. So middle-class job creation equals manufacturing. Unfortunately, it's not realistic. As most of us know, the time horizons to build out the infrastructure to create these manufacturing facilities is not something that's going to happen. Certainly not during this Trump
but if you want to launch a golden age, then this is what you do. No, I'm serious. It's like you have to decide at some point, right? It was like building the highway system. It didn't happen overnight.
Yeah, but you also have to base it on reality and on history and on the knowledge of what the United States is capable of and what other countries are there to do for the United States in terms of trade. This is nothing but chaotic, discombobulated craziness and confusion. And we're seeing it in what not just the tariffs are doing to consumers, but what this back and forth is doing to the markets. Mm-hmm. And you all have CNN has done such a great job, and I'm so proud of the network of focusing on real people's stories. You all have on all the time small businesses, entrepreneurs, people who are, frankly, would be the ones who would benefit if this kind of manufacturing would actually come back to the United States.
But are experiencing the pain right now, which is to your point about other countries saying, well, let's just maybe you put them through it, it's a problem.
Independent pharmacies are now warning they could become a casualty of President Trump's trade war. The president has threatened to put steep tariffs on imported pharmaceuticals. This is part of his attempt to bring drug production to the United States. Small pharmacies, however, say the cost of those tariffs could actually drive them out of business. CNN's Julia Vargas-Jones takes a closer look.
There's not a single bottle that I pull up here that doesn't say made in China or made in India. The generics, I think probably about 80% of it or more is made in other countries.
The threat of tariffs for this slice of the healthcare industry looms large. But it's just one of many challenges independent pharmacists like Sona Kazangian now face.
It's very difficult for us to survive.
Her father started the business 41 years ago. Now she's fighting to keep it open among razor-thin profit margins in what she calls a broken reimbursement system.
There are drugs that I don't even buy anymore because I already know that there is no plan that reimburses me, even at cost, much less at a profit.
That reimbursement is set by pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs, companies that act as middlemen between insurers and pharmacies.
They control, what the patient pays as a copay. They control what we, as the pharmacy, receives as payment. These entities are paying us less than what the drug costs for us to buy it.
This business model is not sustainable for the pharmacies, experts say, but often more profitable for PBMs.
PBMs are paid by the discount they get. So they've learned that if prices rise, they get a better discount and their pay goes up.
So could they benefit from higher prices of medication?
If the prices rise because of tariffs or for any other reason, they will do better.
If enacted, the cost of tariffs on those drugs would be passed down from manufacturer to wholesaler to pharmacy, squeezing these businesses even further.
We don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but I think all independent pharmacies have thought about this issue. If you're acquiring this drug now for X dollars more because of a tariff, the likelihood that the PBM is going to pay me X dollars more to make up for that is probably slim.
But the Pharmaceutical Care Management Association says PBMs generate at least $148 billion in savings for the healthcare system annually, and support independent pharmacies through innovative programs to increase reimbursement on prescription drugs. Earlier this month, the National Community Pharmacists Association issued a statement saying that unless the federal government ensures that PBM pharmacy reimbursements are increased to reflect higher costs, the ripple effect of tariffs could be fewer pharmacies, stranded patients, and inadequate pharmacy networks for Medicare and Medicaid. A grim prognosis for institutions that play a vital role in so many communities.
In parts of this country that are very rural or not very accessible, those pharmacies are really the only medical facilities that exist. So those patients are really gonna suffer.